So,
What do you know? How are you?
One was impressed with your day.
one of these chairs, Kevin. God, there's only 3 of us. This is
Sparse.
You know what? We can kick these out.
no, I was gonna say I was kicking out one chair.
Yummy. Police. Is it awesome?
Yes. Okay, so that is not getting any service, so we're going to do this.
It's not working, huh? Weird. It's Cody's fault, right?
Yeah, it is. Right here.
There's his number. Shaylee, do you have his number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for coming.
How you doing?
Sliding in sideways.
We were hoping you wouldn't show up. There's more room.
That's true.
How was girls' camp?
Oh, hot. So where did they have it at?
Can you hear me?
Oh, was it up there? Okay. Cool.
I'd like to welcome you to our city council meeting this evening on Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. For the record, all city council members are present, with the exception of Councilor Mitchell, who is joining us by telephone. We'd like to excuse tonight Michelle Maragoni, our city recorder, who's on vacation. We appreciate Shaylee Nave filling in for her. She's working next door now, but we appreciate you, Shaylee, and getting everything all set up for us. We have scouts with us tonight, and it's been a while since we've had scouts, and we're excited to have you. We're glad you're here this evening. Bart Stevens, I think you talked with him. I'm going to ask Bart if he'd welcome you in. And go ahead, Bart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Jeffrey, if you would come up to the microphone right here and speak into the microphone and introduce yourself and those that are with you and your troop, please.
I am Jeffrey DeBell from Troop 1111, and with me is Troop 1112.
And your leaders?
You're putting him on the spot.
My mom
Go on, carry on.
and Donna.
Thank you. Would you just stay right there? Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Good. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
Will you please repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
Thank you. We appreciate having the scouts with us tonight, as I said. And if this meeting gets long, I don't feel like you have to stay for the whole thing. So, and I think, Shaylee, did you mention the packets to them?
Yeah,
They've got them, huh? Super good. Yeah, that's great. So thank you, Shaylee. Hope they'll be of help to you as you work on that merit badge. So. It's customary at this time we take a moment of silence. As we take a moment of silence tonight, we'd like to remember those who protect our cities, our police and firefighters, and also remember our military people that are serving around the world and defending this country that we love and care about so much. Also, if you would, remember our city council tonight as they discuss matters that are important to the city, and they might make good choices and decisions in behalf of the people who live here and those that come here to visit and to shop. We'll now take a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Move on next to public comment period. This is a period of time when you can come forward and address the city council and share any concerns you might have or ideas that you'd like to share with them. It's important that you know that no action will be taken during the public comment time because it isn't on the agenda, and we would have to, if the council decides to go to another meeting and put it on the agenda. So we'd ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes if you would. The time is yours.
Members of the council, my name is John Overdyk. I've lived in Riverdale for 50 years. I'm a dedicated civilian. I've served our nation for 3 years. I have many credentials. I hope you bear with me for a little while to help all the people in Riverdale. Accountability, prevention, and solutions is why I'm here. Mayor Searle put me up to it. He asked me to come. His city administrator, Mr. Kobab, and the head of water. Water is the primary source of safety for all of us, every one of us, for our kids, for our future, for growth. Having said that, my water bill, I wasn't going to pay because I asked Mayor Searle, please pay it. He said, I can't. I have to. The counselors who I'm looking at, all three of them, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Arnold, Mr. Ellis. I'm here for the good of Riverdale City, not for myself. I brought this. This is to hold me accountable. The city and people for me, and this has to be given by a doctor, undersigned, and I have to sign. I brought this. Why? I've got 2 knees that are bad. And please bear with me for understanding. I suffer from arthritis. Normal down my back of an MRI is that way. Now I'm like this. I don't want to have an operation. So why am I saying this? Why is I'm going to bear witness against some people that have a horrible job. They have to participate in the muck. I was a railroader. I could say it with an S, but I can't because I'm trying to be polite. Having said that, sewers and sprinkler systems and homes that are subjected to surges. I was a machinist apprentice for 6 years. I graduated to a journeyman. I graduated to a master mechanic. I worked for the aerospace company and helped make portions of the LEM spaceship. I have been studious in gauges of measurement. I have repaired them, monitored them, and know what they're like. I'm competent in my skills. I can't do my work. I tell you about why, because I can't get on my knees. If I do, guess what? I'm out of commission. So why I say that is this: in preparation of prevention for the good of Riverdale, not for the good of me, but accountability has to be recorded for future entities of lawsuits for the city of Riverdale. That's why I'm here. That's why Mr. Searle asked me to come. Is that not correct, sir?
I asked you to come and present it to the council.
Absolutely. And here I am. Now, Mr. Bachman.
John, let me say one thing. We normally limit this to 3 minutes, so if you
I know that, but I have to.
If the
condense
council
it.
desires, they can reschedule it. And when it's on the agenda, then we can get into detail.
Well, I'm right now
discussing
to the
it,
3-minute phase, but I have to give credibility to what I'm saying.
Okay.
So the 4 judges now do for the good of Riverdale. Mike Bachman, who I have to hire, came to my home February 5th of this year, 3 times in 10 days. 3 times in 10 days. Filtration by pressure, regulators of surges that come into my home. Surges and the power of water for distribution, and because of the growth in the city, pressure regulators are not being checked accurately. Because of COVID, the kids did not do the work properly. 100 yards away from my home, a water line was reconstructed. Siltation came. Because of the pressure in my home, the water regulator my water heater bounced off the walls in my cabinet and in my home. It tore down precious memories in my home. Having said that, because of water leakage and pressure in my home, the expense to have Mr. Bachman come 3 different times and put 3 different water regulators in, because of the surges created by water pressure that Riverdale presented into my home. It made water leaks. I showed the mayor and the city administrator that the sidewalks were diminished by water leaks in the sprinkling system. So the sprinkling system is water, period. No secondary water. So having said that, that cost me $1,900 for Mr. Bachman. Approximately $1,100 was labor. To reconstruct my sprinkling system with water leaks that inundated the sidewalk, approximately without much cost, because it cost me $600 to reconstruct the whole sprinkling system. Having said that, I'm not here after money, but to hold the council accountable for the future of Riverdale. I want the record to show that you paid me some compensation for the record for prevention of lawsuits. That's why I'm talking to you, gentlemen. And that's what it's needed for our city because of this damnable growth that we're having. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Overdyke. I didn't mean to rush you. I just wanted you to remember that, just to be a little concise. I know we've had some long conversations, so I just wanted to do that. But we appreciate you keeping it short and to the point. So
Well, I'm sorry I'm so long-winded, but yes, that's who I am. I'm
that's
sorry.
you, and that's fine. So am I. I talk longer than I should, but when you get you and I together on the phone, it goes on for a while. So
I tell you what, it's for the good of all, correct?
yeah, it is.
And thank you, Boy Scout, for showing up. Guess what? Keep it in there. Keep it going.
Okay, we talked Alan, we talked, you were on your way home from girls camp, so you weren't in the work session. You can, the council can move this to a agenda further down the road. It has to be the city council because it's a budget item. The mayor can't waive any water fees or utilities. And so he has to come before the city council, but it can be moved to another meeting, put on the agenda, then it can be discussed further at that time, probably a little more detail. Can we do that, or you can choose not to move on it. So you can do that now. We do that now, right, Steve? Or do we do that at any time in the next week or two? Put it on the future. Or,
If we're going to put it onto a new agenda, then we probably should do that now, if that was the council's choice.
okay.
We can't even really discuss it or anything.
We really shouldn't. I mean, you can lightly hit on it.
It's in a meeting.
Right.
It's not on the agenda.
Right.
Right. That's why, but they just, would you like to put it on a future?
We shouldn't even discuss it about talking about putting it on the agenda because it's not on the agenda. I mean,
Well, right, but we're not making a decision towards it if you're setting it on an agenda. So I think you're okay doing that, whether you want to discuss that part of it. Because otherwise, I don't know how else you'd get one on unless we did it through our other means, through councilman or the mayor and that measure. I think you'd be okay as far as discussing that part of it.
well, I would like to find out, I mean, if we put it on the agenda and we find out, from Sean, what's causing it, what the deal is. Because if we put it on the agenda and approve this, it's just going to become standard fare. That if the city has a surge and something happens to any resident, we can't do it to Mr. Overdyk and
May I
not
interrupt,
anybody
please?
else.
May I interrupt, please?
No.
We have insurance. Insurance is the prevention. Insurance.
I mean, we can put it on the agenda. We can't discuss it. That's the problem is we can't discuss it today. So we can put it on the agenda, but in order to put it on the agenda to discuss it, Sean needs to present to us what the issues are, and if it's the city's problem to deal with, and then if we come up with a situation or a policy where the city, it's not just you, it's everybody in the city. I mean, it's something that we would have to create, and I don't know enough about it to be a judge, like you say. I mean, I don't know enough about it to be able to.
You need both sides to the story
Yeah, we need
and everything.
we need some serious education, I think, before we can make a decision like
So
that.
should we just put it on a future agenda to discuss it?
I'd put it on as a discussion, because I don't think if we put it on, I don't know what you guys talked about earlier, but, to put it on as a discussion and do that in a meeting and figure out what's going on and then put it on as an action afterwards, after we have the discussion, give Sean time to present and put some numbers together of what we're talking about. I've heard of it from other residents, so I'm not, totally ignorant on the topic, but I don't know what's causing it, and I don't know, 'cause it didn't happen to my house. So,
I've had experience.
have you?
Yeah, I have.
So
So should we just put it on the future
it'd
agenda
be
and
fine to have a
discuss it?
discussion on the agenda. if
We
someone
have,
wants to say.
we have a
I'll
consensus.
consent to that.
Okay, so it's at least two council members. Okay, so we'll put it on future agenda, John.
Yeah, let me be part of it, please.
It'll be announced
Good.
on riverdalecity.com with our agendas. Probably be, is it August 10th, is it?
That first meeting in August would be the 3rd.
The 3rd. It'd probably be August 3rd.
Well, let me be selfish and want to see the Bucks and the Sens play. Thank you for listening.
Yeah,
Take care.
you're welcome. Just make sure you cheer for the right team. All right. Do we have any others for public comment? Move on next to presentations and reports. I just have one item here for the mayor's report. I serve on the Wasatch Front Regional Council Transportation Committee, and we were called to a special meeting 2 weeks ago, and it was actually a Zoom meeting. It was a short meeting, but I think the council's fully aware. We've made notice to the public, but they're looking at doing a complete rebuild of the interchange at 5600 South in Roy, and that'll change the Riverdale exit. It'll be in a different location, and this is just, it's really a big project. They're going to widen 5600 South going west. That's all part of it, but with Northrop Grumman coming in and the workload there, it's been given a lot of priority. And what this meeting was is they wanted to add 3 different projects for immediate funding. So that has been, we did recommend that, our committee, and that goes forward to the Wasatch Front Regional Council. But it looks like that project's a go. It looked like it was 5 or 6 years down the road here not too long ago, and now it's been moved up. They're engaged now. I'm sure UDOT's busy. I don't know how far they are with the planning and things, but you should see things happening out there for probably within the next year, several months probably. So that's a good thing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Question. The land that is in front of the Motel 6 is a staging area for construction on I-15. And the arrangement was that land would revert to Riverdale City once the I-15 project is complete. Are you aware if they're going to maintain that, UDOT, for the construction of, for the interchange at 5600? And I don't expect you to have an answer, but would you follow up to see if that's something that, because that parcel of land is somewhat is a pinnacle area for development for our future development in that region for possibly different brands.
I'm aware that property, they said there was a good share it might be available following the I-15 construction. Mike Eggett could tell us for sure how that works on that.
Exactly, but I just, with the 5600 interchange moving rapidly ahead, I'm just wondering if they're going to want to retain it, and if for future conversations. Thank you.
You would surely think they would.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid that, yes.
Yeah, I would think it would, and the situation with Motel 6 right now is still the bottleneck, I think, with future development. But I know they're still working that issue. So I'll find out though and let you know, Bart, if I can. I don't know whether we can find out whether they'll continue to use it. I can find out what's supposed to happen to it for sure, because I've been told. Have you ever heard, Bill, since you've been here?
That's a good question.
It's kind of one of those things that was, well, when we're done, but when they're done with I-15 is still a little ways out.
Yeah, and I don't know that I heard it reverted back to the city.
They'll make available.
I think it would become available, is kind of what I heard.
That's probably a better term.
Yeah, would be available, so.
You're talking about that triangle piece that's right there to the south of Motel 6,
Yeah, where all of the construction is staged at.
that staging area. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll look into that.
Okay. Okay, move on next to the city administration report. Do you have any questions, or do you have anything, Bill, on that report first?
Just as per usual, want to commend and recognize the folks that have anniversaries this month. In particular, we've got some employees that have almost 2 decades or more at the city. Randy Koger has 31 years at the city, and he's almost the face of Riverdale City, and that's great. He does great work for us, both in code enforcement as well as the fire marshal duties for the city, and so we're grateful for his service and for his dedication. We also have Brandon Peterson with the police department with 19 years, Lynn Wright with 18 years, also with the police department. At the fire department, we've got Jordan Cubbage, Michael Payne and Steve Wetton with 7 years each. Steve Hodges has 6 years at the city. Going back to the police department, Ryan Schofield has 4 years. Public Works, we've got Travis Dolly. Is it Dolly? Is that how you say it? Dally, thank you. 4 years. We've got Sherry with 4 years over at Community Services. Heidi in the police department with 4 years. We've got J.R. Van Dyke over in the fire department with 4 years. And we've got Max Higley with 3 years over at fire, and Shane, I'm not even going to try Shane's name there, with 3 years as well. Shaylee, 2 years. Congratulations. That's awesome. Scott Call is and Oscar Huerta over in the fire department, both with 2 years each. So I want to commend these incredible people for their dedication, their service to the city, and grateful for all the work that they do.
Hey, do you have any questions for Bill tonight? Pretty lengthy report, lots of information in there. So, move on next to consent items. Consideration to approve the meeting minutes from July 6th, 2021, the council work session, and also the city council meeting on the same night. Do we have any changes or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous in favor. Move on to action items. Action item number 1, this is discussion. Possible action on restrictions for water use in the city. Mr. Kobabe.
We are experiencing a drought that is both long and significant. It started really last winter when we had lower than expected and lower than needed precipitation and snow and rainfall over the winter. And then we had a very warm spring that has led to an even warmer summertime. And we all know this. We've all seen the effects. If you drive around to the many reservoirs around the area, you'll see that they're down significantly. In response to that, the mayor has asked that Sean and I put together some reports and keep him abreast of the situation with our own water supply and make sure that we have enough to meet the needs of our city. And in particular, in conjunction with Weber Basin's goal of reaching a 20% reduction in water use, we put out a request that people limit their watering to every other day waterings based on their house number. So if you were an odd number address, you would go on odd days, and even numbers would go on even days. And we had hoped that that would provide a savings in water that would be hopefully around the 20% target that we were shooting for. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that. Sean, you want to talk about what we have seen? And the impact.
So the first week we seen a little less than 2%, like just under 2%. The second week was the 4th of July week, and we actually bounced up to about 7% that week. And the only thing I can attribute that to is people being out of town, because I don't know any difference there. And then last week we bounced down to the 1.7% again. So I don't know why the 4th of July week was different, but it was. The well, we went back and looked since May, we've dropped, so where we're pulling the water out of right now, we've dropped 17 feet since the first week in May, and we're continually dropping on that. Our pumps right now are only about 50 feet below the water level that we're pumping at. So if we continue to drop, there's always a concern that they will cavitate and that we will no longer be able to pump out of them. I've been talking with the well drillers about trying to get more pipe in and additional casing to possibly lower that if we need to. But that's not going to happen quickly. That's not something you go in and do in a day, but we could look at it for this winter. The problem with doing that is it also cuts your capacity. So the lower we get, the more head that puts on the well, so it cuts our flow. So we won't pump as much water as we used to if we go lower. Even if the water level comes back up, we'll be at that lower amount. The other thing I think that's happening that's really hurting the aquifer that we're in is Weber Basin's in the same aquifer. All of their reservoirs are low, so they're pumping as much as they can out of the ground to make up for what's not in the reservoirs and to keep from depleting the reservoirs anymore. And so I think it's a combined use, everybody's drawing that water down. And then the other thing that we've had quite a few complaints on is the splash pad, and so that's also an item that was kind of that we've talked to the mayor about, and I've kind of been providing him numbers with. But we're averaging for July, just under 800 gallons a day that we've been adding to that every day. Some days we've been as high as 1,300. Some days we're down around 3. And it actually has dropped since the June numbers were even higher than that. But it has dropped back down to about around the 780 average for this month. So that's kind of the information we provided the mayor, and I think he's probably passed that along. But it's concerning. I can't remember ever seeing the well levels drop so dramatically in 2 months. But that's what happens when there's no recharge on the aquifer. Everybody's drawing out of it, and I don't know. We've talked to our neighbors around us. Pretty much everybody's on the 2-day-a-week watering right now as far as restrictions.
That's what's recommended by Weber Basin
They're
and
recommending
Pineview Water Systems also.
2 days a week, 40 minutes on your rotors per day, and 20 minutes on your spray heads. And there's definitely people that are trying. You can drive the city, you can see some that's trying. I also would say there's probably some green lawns that people are doing what's asked of them, but they've already trained their lawns, and their lawns are used to it, and so their lawns look like they might not have tried, but they probably really have. And so you can't just judge it on who's doing what by the color of their lawn all the time. So a lot of that goes back to training and maintenance. And if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them.
Let me just make one comment for the public. That 800 gallons a day at the splash pad, the water there is filtered and recycled too, so this is just from evaporation. The water doesn't go down the drain, it comes back and gets recycled and refreshed, but it's a lot of water per day. Go ahead.
Well, we're just hoping you got a copy of a letter that the mayor put together with some of the information that Sean just mentioned, and our hope is that if we can get this letter out to the citizens and residents and business owners of Riverdale, that they will take steps to cut back even more so that we will achieve that 20% reduction in use, or hopefully maybe even more. At this point, because we're so far down, it's going to be tough. We're kind of in one of those situations where we don't have a whole lot of options. We can't shut people's water off. We just can't. There's no legal way to do that, and our code actually says not to shut people's water off, and even in cases of dispute. People rely on their water for drinking and cooking and everything else. But we're in a tough spot here, and so our hope is that if we can get information out to people, that they will make better choices about their water use. And the mayor's suggestion in his letter was to go to a 2-day per week schedule, and to stagger that. Obviously, you don't want back-to-back waterings. Again, the hope is that we can see some additional savings there. Did you have a thought, Sean?
And 20%, they're throwing that out there. You got to remember that a lot of, they're using that on the irrigation side, and a lot of them people really don't conserve. So I think Riverdale's probably done better than what we think, because I think we're already more conservative than a person that has a one-time-a-year bill. I think their people have already, they already do better than what a normal irrigation would do when you pay it on your property taxes, and you paid for your water all year, and then you water as much as you want because nobody meters it, right? So I think our residents probably already conserve better. Even if we got to 12 or 15%, I would feel good about it. I don't think 2's enough, though. I don't think we got much of an effort there. I do think some people did. I think the majority probably didn't, only gain 2%. So.
Any questions, comments? Alan, we mentioned in the meeting upstairs that that letter was written just so we could get a letter out quickly. Like if we approve something tonight, that we would be able to get the letter mailed out. So it was written with where changes could be made. It's just a draft. It wasn't, this is what we're going to do, and the council doesn't have any input. We just wanted to have a letter ready to go out as quickly as possible, so we don't have to do like we did last time. We ended up on Facebook and waiting for the city newsletter to come in the first week of August, and we just didn't want to do that. So there was no takeaway from your input and your authority to be involved.
As far as I'm concerned, I think I made my position known last meeting. I think we need to get aggressive. So I don't have a problem with the letter at all or anything like that, but I think when I drove by the park and the splash pads on, I don't think the city is showing what we're talking about by keeping the splash pad on. And like I said, Weaver Basin's telling us this isn't the problem year, next year's the problem year. So I don't think we should be messing around with this stuff. I know I have friends in Roy that have been told that if they're watering off on multiple days that they'll be warned and then cited. My mom lives in West Haven. She's been told that if they water too much, they're going to be warned and cited. So we're way behind the curve. I think we're way behind the curve on what we're doing, and I think we should get aggressive, because it's not something we should be messing around with. Because it's like I said last meeting when Sean said we were down 10 feet in the aquifer, and I said, well, what does that mean? Are we down 10 of 20 feet? But just saying, if we're down 17 feet and we go down 50, we're flirting with 60% of water left, and I think we should get serious about this.
No, I agree with you. I think we should have went. We should have went to 2 waterings per week last meeting.
Well, and it's kind of sad. My wife takes care of the sprinkling system at our house, so and I know the efforts that she's made, and just to see the 1.78% that was reported on Facebook, and seeing what she's done, she's been aggressive about it. So it's kind of sad to see a 1.78% reduction when you know some people are. Matter of fact, my backyard neighbors, they've practically shut theirs off. They have little green spots where their sprinklers are, but everything else is dead. And 1.78%. Are we really trying?
Are we doing it?
Yeah.
I wondered about I'm glad you mentioned the splash pad again, but I thought that was something we should ask in here. What do we want to do with the splash pads? Should we continue with it? Should we? I put in there, I saw South Ogden had cut their hours back about from 70 to 40, I think. Anyway, I and Sean mentioned it would save more water if we cut the number of days back rather than the number of hours. That's why we went to days, and I put in the letter 50% of the days we would cut out, reduce 50%. Is that adequate? Should we stop we can shut it down. They're talking, I hear rumors that first August they're going to shut down Weber Basin Secondary and Pineview Secondary, but that's not a for sure. But if they do that, and we're still watering the lawns with culinary water, which is all we have, they're going to come out with a letter asking you to cease all landscape watering with any water, okay? And I think that can happen, so. Any thoughts on the splash pad with what we're doing, cutting it in half, or?
I think cutting it in half, cutting the days rather than the hours
Just,
would be better.
okay. Got 2 heads, 3 heads saying,
Okay, can I make a comment?
go ahead.
The splash pad really, from my perspective, is a symbol, because the totality of what you save by cutting it back or shutting it off is minimal in the totality of what's being used. But it is a symbol because it's easily seen, and they can point fingers at it and so on and so forth. There's just from my perspective, and again, to reiterate, I worked in the water utility department on the distribution side, which is going out as opposed to collection, which is where the sewer comes in, is for several years in Oceanside from 89 to about 92, with a year off for Desert Storm. But there was a drought in Southern California that was a concerted effort to educate. So you had the state, you had the counties, you had the communities. Now, I don't have television, I don't do social media, so I don't know what's being put out there. Hopefully there's a lot of campaign, but there's a lot of education that went on for people of what they could do in Southern California in that era to cut back of their use, and they would specifically say some things. At that time, the 3.2 gallon per flush toilets were the common, and so there was a big push to get the 1.6, and then Congress passed that everything had to be manufactured as a 1.6. So then there was a push to get people to move on that and put low flow shower heads in, and a whole host of things that were done. Now, I remember sitting in meetings when they talked about effectiveness of certain things that they were doing, and this is recollection, so it might be a little cloudy, but the 70-30 aspect that was put out was very effective to say, hey, 70% of your water that's used in your household is outside the home, 30% is inside the home. So if you're going to save water in your household, the most effective way to do it is outside the home. And when you start saying those things, it resonates with the common people or the users, not common people, but the users, as to where they can cut back in a personal sense. Now, the other thing was water's used inside the home for hygiene and food preparation and so on. And now, on a personal level, when I was in the Corps and went on a Navy ship, I was strictly instructed, and maybe you were too, on how you do showers, because the desalination on a ship is such that there's just not enough water on a ship. So you turn on the spigot, you get wet, turn it on for 15, 20 seconds, get wet, get your hand towel wet, get your hair wet, turn it off, shampoo, wash yourself with the water off, and then you turn on the water for another 30, 45 seconds to rinse off, and that's all the water you got for for a shower, and because there just wasn't water. And so you started mentioning these things in the campaigns that they had in Southern California, and that was one that was actually put out to shut off the water while you did your hair and shampooed and cleaned yourself, and then turn back on the water, and that resonated. People did it. Another thing was, I mean, I don't know, sometimes it maybe get earthy, but you put the brick in the toilet tank again, and we all probably grew up with that. You put it in the toilet tank. Some of these types of things that you can do, that wasn't always had the best results because a lot of people didn't confused what a toilet tank and a toilet bowl was, and there were problems. And so the education of when you just fearmonger and say, well, we're going to get heavy, we're going to get aggressive. Well, what does that mean? Oh, we're going to cite you. Well, 2 days a week, that's a tool. You give them tools. Give people, the residents, tools to cut back. Whether you're a homeowner or property owner or you're a renter, there are things that everybody can do inside the home and outside the home. But if you point out certain things, like limiting your showers or limiting the watering. And I think I've mentioned people in Southern California would put a cistern out there and put a siphon hose out the window, so when they drew a bath, instead of having that water go down into the sewer system, it was siphoned out into a cistern that was used to water the garden or water the lawn. A lot of ingenuity that went into saving water, but a lot of this stuff, you would see flyers. Now, there was no social media in 89 to 92, 93, but there was a lot of information that was disseminated through the paper, through whatever, where people understood and responded accordingly and really altered their lifestyles to accommodate less water. And that comes with education. Now, in the letter, absolutely. It needs to be a letter because you just can't get everything you need on a postcard. But, put in some statistics like a 70-30. Hey, 70% of your water use in your household is outside your house. Do you think you could cut back 20% of that? And, people will respond. And, you got to kind of spell out some tools of things where to cut back, whether it's, what you do and when you water and some of these types of things. Some of it's common sense, some of it was heard a lot, but I think that's where the direction in the near term to get results needs to go. Thank you.
You bet. So the splash pad, there's 2 people. Thanks, Scouts, for being here.
Mayor,
Yep.
could I say one thing on the splash pad? So right now, this don't have to affect your decision, but we have enough chemical to run through right about the first week in August, to about the end of July. And we don't have to use it, but if you was thinking about cutting the days back and didn't want to run it all year, we could run through the next week or 2, use up that chemical, and that would also give people that have events scheduled at the park that they rented the Boweries to use the pavilions a chance to reschedule. And then we could call the rest of them that have like August or September reservations, but whatever you want to do. I was just throwing that out there. It would be nice to know where we're headed so we don't buy more chemical if we are going to shut it off.
So if you cut it back 50%, you have too much chemical. I didn't quite follow you there.
So if we go to 50%, we'd be able to run through about the second week in August with the chemical we have right now. If we run every day of the week, we would run till about the first week in the 1st of August.
Okay. So are you good with going 50%?
Yeah, I think that's a good compromise for the moment.
How many's in favor of going 50% to start?
What is it now? Is it 6 days a week?
7.
So 50% is 3 days or 3.5, or 3 1 week and 4 1 week?
I'm waiting for you guys to tell me what that is. I don't know.
You'll have to figure out the schedule. We've done
I would say
schedules
we just-
before, and
I
it's
vote weekends. Maybe like, or even maybe like Friday, Saturday.
It's hard to gauge usage because other than by saying when are the Boweries rented.
And I tried to figure that out for you today, and there is no pattern to it because I can look at the water usage on there, and some weeks Tuesday has 1,300 gallons and Saturday has 900, and sometimes Saturday has 1,200 and Tuesday has 300. There's no, it's like whenever whoever shows up, whenever the buses showed up, that's when the big days are. Typically the weekend was higher, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday typically was higher, but it's not like every single week it's that way.
When the buses show up?
Oh, we have
Boys and girls play.
Davis
the
School
buses show up
District.
daily over there usually,
There's a lot of buses.
Just have Scott take care of that.
especially Davis County. Davis County
The
sends
Weber County resident.
school buses probably 2 or 3 at a time, several days a week. So
yeah, there's people all over there's people that like them. So
Can we schedule it so it runs for 15 seconds and then shut it off and then
You gotta
And let it
soap
go.
up and then 15 more seconds, get back and rinse off.
you said it uses more water if you cut back the hours rather than cut back the days. Does it use? I just wondered if you could, with the Boweries and that, with their uses, could you do it? Cut back the hours instead of the days. Does that use a lot more that way? And then just have the hours available when the period of time that would cover most of the rentals there in the Boweries.
I would guess most of your rentals are going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want to if you're going to cut it all, that's a little more than half. But if you ran it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's probably going to cover most of your usage and most of your Bowery rentals. I didn't check with Rich on that for sure, but that's typically what they are. And that would give us more than a 50% reduction. And if somebody calls me then, I feel like I can say, we're asking you for 20%. We're doing a little over 50%. So, hopefully they wouldn't keep throwing that in my face that we're not doing anything over there. So,
Well, a lot of people don't know it's recycled either. I've talked to a few people and they're real surprised when you tell them that it's
there is
filtered and recycled.
some cities they are not. They go straight to the sewer, so they're running straight water the whole time. But
Yeah.
I think we shut it off, but I said that last meeting, so just shut it off. I get the chemical situation and all that kind of stuff, but renting the Bowery doesn't guarantee you the splash pad. And I mean, we're in a drought.
I'm fine with that.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah, but if we use,
if you're cutting, I just wondered if you could do it and help appease the Bowery users.
300 to 1,200 gallons a day, I'd rather see it on the lawn than the splash pad usage, which we'd have to do the lawn anyway, because if we cut back on the lawn, and you said the traffic,
So that
eats
is
up the lawn, so-
shutting the sprinkler system or the splash pad off. If we go to 2 days a week on Riverdale Park, it will definitely help us. It's still going to get really yellow, but it's not going to wear the foot patterns in it, because if we follow our own regulations on Riverdale Park and we only water 2 days a week and we leave the splash pad on, we're going to get dirt patterns in there. I can guarantee you that. If you shut the splash pad off, we'll probably have yellow grass, but I doubt we'll have wear patterns. All the blankets and everything they put out, it just super heats that grass. You can go over there and see the blanket spots, So it will help. It'll help the grass survive by shutting off the splash pad as well. But I know it's really well liked by the community too. So I don't want to be in your shoes. I'll just do what you tell me to do and let you make the decision.
Well, we have the over 50 crowd who wants their pickleball courts, and now we have the under 15 crowd that wants their splash pad.
How
The
many-
moms want the splash
How
pad.
many of you is favor of ask 50% before? Should I do it the other way first? How many of you would like to want to see the splash pad shut down? You got one. So we go 50%, Sean?
Can I,
Go ahead.
7 days a week, if we shut it down 2 days, there's more than 20%. I'd say just shut it down 2 days, maybe 3. And leave it up to discretion of where they can post
Maybe
it.
go 4 days, run it 4 days.
Well, whether it's consecutive or intermittently, I mean, that depends at the discretion of Mr. Douglas and Mr. Taylor, Rich, is it Taylor? Yeah, Taylor.
Mr. Cobabe. Yeah, I go 4 days then. Are you okay with that? Go 4 days?
I think restricting Sean's ability to do this by having the council say this is wrong. I mean, we need to, we're here to provide the tools, not cause the problems is what the council should be for. And as Sean being in his position should be able to say, you know what, no, we're cutting this off, we're not ordering any more chemical, or this is what it's doing to his parks. I mean, there are parks, they're Riverdale parks, but they're his parks. When people say, great, your parks have grass or dirt paths in them, they don't call us, they call the city, and I just think, I do have television and I do have social media, and even the governor's having press conferences in a field in Layton, right? And saying that we need to get busy on this thing. And, we're talking about the splash pad for the Davis County schools or whatever. It's crazy to me that we're not getting aggressive. We're going to wait for the next meeting to talk about this again. And
Yeah, but you'd have check ID on everybody that came here.
no, I'm not saying that.
I know people that come here
saying-
from Sunset and they don't come in a school bus. So do you,
No, I'm
you
not
check
saying
all
check
their
IDs.
IDs?
I don't know where you got
And
that.
you-
I'm
no.
saying we need to save water.
Well, I know we do, and I understand that, but I mean, if you cut out the buses, you ticket
I'm
the
not cutting out the
buses.
buses. I'm saying if the buses are coming, but I'm saying that we have a lot of demand on our parks. Sean's fighting it, and we're supposed to give him the tools to fight it. And we're saying now we're going to hamstring you with 4 days a week. It's more important that
Well, he gets to pick the 4 days a week. We're saying cut it back
Alright.
3 days. We
I've
thought,
already voted, so I'm out.
no, that's fine. Yep.
As a city, are we sticking with the 20%? On the face of it, is that sufficient if we can achieve that goal? Or are
It's
we?
a great goal for where we're already at.
Okay. So
But-
if that's the goal, then I think a 50% reduction in days is.
But I think back to the park, you're going to ruin the grass. If we go to 2 days a week watering, if we send the letter out for 2 days a week watering and we follow that guideline and we leave the splash pad open, the grass at that park's gone. I'm just
I
telling
agree
you.
with that. So let's reduce it. The question is, how much should we reduce it?
Well, it
100%?
doesn't matter if I only get 2 days a week of water over there. I'm only going to water that park twice in a week. If you leave it open even 3 days a week, I think you're going to have trails and you're going to have dirt spots in it. But that's just an assumption. I don't know that for a fact. I would just guess that.
So we either have the splash pad or we have green grass, one of the two.
And it's not going to be green grass 2 days a week. It's
Yellow
already
grass.
yellow over there, and it's going to be yellow, but it will survive. But it can't handle the foot traffic, and the lack of water. I mean, it just can't.
So what is your suggestion? What do you think would?
I
know that Alan just said we need to not hamstring you. So what would you suggest? What would be the best?
I would
option
suggest
for-
that if you're going to go to 2 days a week watering, like we're asking the residents to do, that you shut the splash pad off.
Okay.
And I hate to do that because we didn't run it last year, but I'm just saying that it's not easy to get that park to grow back, because next year if we have good water and we open the splash pad back up, I don't have time to grow new grass. I mean, I just don't. But I'll make work whatever you decide.
Go ahead, Braden.
So I actually am kind of after listening to everything. There's been a lot said. I think it sends an appropriate message that we are serious if we shut the splash pad down. Now, I know it's going to upset people, and I think we should do everything we can to help, make people whole that have reservations. Like, I really think that we should try to make refunds to people because they reserved that park based on that splash pad. And I would be really frustrated if I had reserved it and then there was no splash pad. And I think we kind of have to give them the option of getting a refund. But I think shutting that down tells the residents of Riverdale, look, this is not a joke. Like, we are out of water. And I think if you shut that down and send a letter, I think it really sends the right message.
Well, Bart says it's a symbol, and I think that is a symbol because if they see the water running over there, it's like you say, they think, well, it can't be that bad if they're still using the.
So this is a big weekend. We have the chemical to run through this weekend. If we're going to shut it down, what if we run through this weekend and then we'll make phone calls to the people that have it reserved and just tell them we'll offer them the refund, but we're going to shut it down after the 24th weekend. And that way you would have time to reschedule somewhere else if you have 2 weeks out, I would think. If you decide to go that way. But I could get with Rich and we could make phone calls to the people that have reservations, just tell them, we're shutting it down for water conservation.
I'd go with that after the weekend and go to 2 days a week after that. We could be the leader.
My guess is that people want the splash pad, but they really need the Boweries and the pavilions. And so if you're going to have a large group of people, you're still probably going to go, in which case we might want to hold on to it. But if they really are concerned or upset about losing that splash pad, we might be in a position to offer them a refund.
Yeah, so I agree with that too. Like, yes, they might struggle to get a reservation somewhere else, and I'm sorry for that. We did offer a refund if they can find one. If they can't, it's not a life or death thing. Like, you can still have your party. It may not be as good as you thought. I just feel like that's really the best solution.
I agree with that.
If you are open on the weekends, chances are you won't get the Davis County school buses.
That's probably true.
Give them a call.
Well, I think, you said ask Sean, and he asked Sean, and Sean says shut it down. So
And I support that.
you
I
gave
know.
him the tools, and I'm fine with that. I think it sends a message.
You want to keep
So why don't we take a consensus on
Make it effective August 25th.
July,
That's
after
what,
the 4th of July?
that's what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah, July 25th.
Can I ask another question? Historically, after the 24th, and again, this is somewhat general, once you get into August, things naturally die down as people are preparing to go back to school, and there's just a lull really after the 24th. Do you sense that, or have you observed that?
So every week we'll go down in usage after about the first week in July, or the first week in August.
So there's a natural tapering.
There will be, yeah, for sure.
So I mean, if we kick it out another week, then there's it self-regulates itself to diminish.
No, because a lot of the water we use over there is the makeup water to get you have to get the chemicals right every morning so that your chlorine's right, your acid's right, your UV, all that stuff that kills all the bugs is right. Well, a lot of the water we use over there is makeup water to do that. So even though I may not have as many visitors there, I'm still going to use that makeup water. So if I'm using 300 gallons in the morning to make up water, but I only use 50 gallons for people, I'm still using that 300 gallons. I'm not going to change that. I might diminish it somewhat because there's not as many bugs in it, but I still have to make up the water. I still have to clean the equipment. I still have to wash everything down in the room and all that stuff. So that water doesn't really change a whole lot based on participation.
Okay, so if it cuts back to hypothetically from 7 to 5 days or 7 to 4 days,
that will make a difference.
Then the after August 1st, then we're still doing some things. Actually, we could probably cut back a day or two now. But
it won't solve the phone calls that I get asking why, if we're in a drought, that we're wasting water. I can't solve that one with that. But yeah, we will use less water, and
I'll
it's
quit
more
calling you.
symbolic.
well, it'll meet we've reduced it by at least 20%, which we're asking everybody to do. Okay, thank you.
It won't save the grass on the park, though.
Okay.
I think you should shut it down.
I agree with that.
So do I.
There's,
Braden agrees
okay, we
with that.
got 3 out of,
Shut it down.
there's 4 out of 5.
So are we shutting down the first week in August after the 24th? When do you want to do it?
25th.
25th.
25th, right after.
That's a Sunday, I think. So,
And you're good if we call the people that have reservations and offer them the chance to have a refund if they don't want to use it because we don't have the splash pad.
yeah.
Okay. And we're going to go to 2 days a week on all of the city-owned grass.
Yeah, you can do that. You know, it's
For you.
the initial email from Weber Basin Water, they said there were some areas, I don't know if they said parks, but some high traffic areas where they could water more if needed. And I kind of took that I think we read that as parks.
So South
You can
Ogden,
get, if you can get, go look at Romer Park.
Yeah, that's a
It's
green.
It is not green.
South Ogden, I talked to them this week, and they are on their active play fields. They are watering more than 2 days a week on the fields that they're actually playing sports on.
Yeah.
The other ones, they've pretty much cut back to 2 days a week. So
That letter, the Weber Basin direction was for certain, and it was to the cities that something like realizing you have high traffic areas, some watering is okay. So maybe you can do more if, like if they're using those fields in Golden Spike or what they're doing over there.
we'll try and meet the goal. I don't know. It's just the last 2 years we've worked really hard on landscaping around the city, and it is what it is. I mean,
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
do we have money in the budget where we can make some signs? Because I really think that, I was out I think in Clinton as a park with my grandkids, and there was a sign that says, we are reducing water and different things. If we put something out soon that says, not letters, but the little yard signs that we put in, and just says we have cut back our, because that would go a long ways to let people know that the city is being, and especially if you put it around the splash pad, or because a lot of people use the pathway in the morning there at the Riverdale Park, to let people know that this is why it's being done. But that takes a little bit of money. Do we have the money to probably discretionary money? Probably wouldn't be very much.
Yeah, we can find money for something like that, I think.
it just depends on how many signs you're talking about doing, because you're
Well,
going to
20 or
spend
30. I mean, between, I don't know, the
Between
two
Golden
parks,
Spike and-
Golden Spike, put maybe even 10 or 15.
If you do 30 aluminum signs, you're going to be $80 a piece. You're going to be $2,500,
I'm not
$3,000.
aluminum. The campaign, the plastic, the vinyl, whatever, the temporary.
Just something that lasts a week or something.
One
don't know,
side,
couple
one
weeks.
side, one color.
One side, one color that says, and they're about $3. If you get 50 of them, they work out about $3 a piece. Then the little
Snipe
stamp.
signs, yeah.
Yeah, snipe signs. That's what they're called. But it goes a long ways. I mean, maybe stick one or two in the roundabout. I don't know. You can be creative, but it's like just so people know. That's part of the education process. Anyway, that's more for city administration.
We'll look into that.
Alan, you weren't in the work session, but we did, in that letter we wrote, we did decide to take out the odd numbers and even numbers and stuff. That won't be in there with 2-day watering.
Okay.
You can just pick their days, okay? That was one change we made up there. Any other discussion on that then? Splash paddle, well, maybe you can put that in your motion, I think, close the splash pad and,
It's just a discussion and a
Yeah, there's no,
action.
there's no
This is
motion.
possible action if you wanted to.
it's an action item.
Yeah.
We do that all the time in the sewer board. If it's a discussion, you can act on it. All right, let's just don't,
I'll make a motion.
so we'll wait till August 3rd, then we'll put it on the agenda the right way.
A motion now.
For hell's sake, you said, you pointed it out. It says possible action, so I'll make a motion to
Well-
close the splash pad.
Possible actions, yeah.
Close the splash pad after, so on July 26th for the remainder of the year, that can be brought back to the city council should we get a torrential rainstorm.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you, Bart. Okay. Motion carries, passes, thank you. I think we'll strike the second action item, that's my items.
Can I, before we, can I ask what the purpose of 7 or number 2 is?
We want to talk about our welcome and what we do, how we do the moment of silence and some things like that, options. And I've surveyed other cities and done things. I had that report for you upstairs, but there wasn't time for it. It was a different topic, Alan. They were aware of that, but yeah, it was just some things I've been concerned with is probably the moment of silence being appropriate for the way we're using it that, so.
Without taking action, can you, since we didn't talk about it upstairs, can you take a minute and explain that? 'Cause that is rather,
Well, it's longer than a minute. I've got some
Explain it.
stuff
He doesn't
written
wanna
up,
know
data
what it
that
it didn't say table.
Yeah, you did.
I struck it.
He struck it.
Bring it
He
back
doesn't
up
want to
again.
do it.
Well,
Do
I
another
don't-
I'm still
one.
asking.
I know, but he's the mayor.
It's on this agenda. I can still ask.
He
struck it.
Struck it. It's no
Well,
longer there.
occasionally we've struck items, and when we do, we just take them off. Okay, we did last meeting. There was a staff manning report or staff authorization report that should have been in this meeting on the second council meeting, and we struck that. So I just didn't, I'm doing it for you if you want to know the truth. I know Alan's
Excuse me, I'm good.
Alan's fun.
I had an apple on the way in.
He's been to girls' camp and now he's just got home, and I
I'm
can tell by the look in his eyes he's
genuinely curious
ready
why
for a
all that was
shower
there.
and
Oh,
bedtime.
good. Well, that's true, but
You could stay after and talk to
Be
him.
patient.
This
He'll
is
bring it up.
this is my deal. I don't want to keep you longer to do that. Okay.
I'm good.
I know.
I'm
For
not-
all of us
I'm
to
not-
stay here.
I'm not.
And the chief's tired too. So. We appreciate you listening to all this, Chief. So. Okay, any discretionary items for this meeting?
I do.
Go ahead.
First of all, can we talk about the thing that you were going to talk about? Sorry, just kidding.
Just a joke.
First thing is I've been working with Officer Stanger on your block party stuff, and I know you know this, but he is awesome, like amazing. He's been, I mean, I've stopped and talked to him on the street. He's called me. He stopped at my house. Just phenomenal. So I don't know what you do to pass that on, because I've told him, but you know, if we can make that loop, I would appreciate it, because he's great. Shaylee as well. is falling right into line and supporting that, and they know, your officers know that she's supporting them. So I've told her, but if you make that loop or whatever. And the second thing is graffiti. We had some crazy people go underneath the overpass by the military academy with a couple cans of spray paint, and that's still under your group. Is that true? And if we could kind of make sure we're using roughly the same color of paint, because when
We don't do that anymore.
That one is a UDOT. That's on a UDOT
Oh, is it?
structure. So I think we reported that today. I'll double check and make sure.
I mean, they literally go in and paint over it with like the color of Brent's shirt. And I don't know what's worse.
I think this is
I
a
like
pretty
the color of your shirt. Don't get me
He's
wrong.
got a colored shirt on too.
So before, when they was doing it with the graffiti team, they was taking donated paint. So what they would do is they'd go get like mixed colors that didn't work, and a lot of times the paint companies would donate to them. I don't know what UDOT's doing, but we'll turn it in. Usually when we report it, we do it on the click and fix so that it's reportable. But I'll make sure. But I know they talked to me this morning, and I thought they reported that today, but I'll double check and make sure it
If
got turned
UDOT
in.
comes in with that crazy paint, let's report them too. It's great. It's ugly. I mean, it's terrible. It's as bad as some. I'm too old to figure out what the designs are, but when they come in there and use light blue paint or something like that, it's terrible.
You know, and it always helps to have more than one. So they have on their website, they have what they call click and fix. And it has a category right on there for graffiti that's on Riverdale or UDOT property.
Okay.
So if you guys want to jump on there and hit it too, it'll track it with more than just one hit type deal, if you know what I mean.
They'll get back to you too. They're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
That always helps us to have more than one voice out there. But
That's-
I'm
well,
pretty sure it was reported today.
You know my wife, she'll gun them down, man. It's like
That's great. That's great.
she's buddies with Sean.
Any other discretionary?
I wasn't done.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Any other? Hey, I got one thing. Bill Takavea, sitting back there in the corner. I'm going to break protocol. And you sat here and you've listened to all this, and I want to tell a story about you. Do I have your permission?
No, don't embarrass me.
I can tell you, well, the good news is anytime you go to Bill's and he's involved in a party or a wedding reception, or he'll always ask you, did you have enough to eat? Okay? He is always concerned at that luau that your stomach was full. But I want to tell this other story because I remember it and I think these guys will enjoy it. It's short, but most of you know where the Riverdale Stake Center is, and they have a ball diamond out back behind there. And I went there one night to a ball game. It's a lot of years ago, Bill. I don't know if you can still do this or not. You already know?
No.
I thought maybe you'd already knew about this, but I can remember the team, and I remember Bill coming up to bat. He's Tongan, right, from the islands. He came up to bat, and he was barefooted, and he walked up with a bat, and he took that bat in one hand, and he knocked that ball clear over the fence. I don't know. I had to share that because I always remember that. I'll never forget it because just like a man out there with a club, and you just sailed that right over the trees, I think. So, all right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, Braden.
Thank you, Braden.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Enjoyed it.
Well.